Now let's go ahead and create a text generator application. And creating one is actually super easy. In fact, we'll go through most of it in this video. Go ahead and click Create from Blank, which then will give you the option of what to choose or in what app type to create. We're going to select Text Generator, which is very, very simple. Again, the idea here is just a simple input-output type application where the user inputs in some variables and then an LLM gets called, generates text, and provides it back to the user. Super, super simple, okay? Let's go ahead and give our app a name. We'll call it Slogan Generator. Okay? We don't need to enter the description. That's fine. It's kind of in the title itself. Let's go ahead and click Create. Okay? Perfect. So when you're creating any sort of text generation application, you need to define a few things. The most important thing to define here is your prefix prompt. Again, the idea here is that an LLM will be called with this prefix prompt with variables that the user puts in, and then some sort of text will be outputted. Very, very simple. So in our case, we just want to generate slogans for companies, right? So the idea for our application would be someone would go in, fill out the type of company that they have, and then it would generate slogans for them. So what we're going to do over here in our prefix prompt, we're going to say generate a slogan for the following company. Okay? And then here under query, again, this over here, you know it's a variable because it's in the double braces. We want to change that from query to company description. Okay? All right. Now we can see over here that it does give us an error because it's trying to find the input variable company description and it cannot find it. So what we need to do is we need to go into variables. Well, actually, let me just do the normal way. We need to go into variables over here and let's delete query, which is the default variable that's created for us. Okay. And then we're going to click add instead. And the type of variable that we're going to add in this case is going to be a short text. Okay. And we're going to call this company description. Our label, which is what the user sees, will be company description. And then we can also set a max length and a required field. Okay, for those, we'll just keep it as the default. Okay, and that's it. That's all we really need to do. So on the right-hand side, we can actually see a preview of the application. We can see our user input field, right, which is company description, and the button run. So this is actually what the user would see. They would just see something like this. So in our case, we're going to say over here, as an example, an ice cream shop. Okay, perfect. Let's click run. Indulge in happiness with every scoop. Perfect. Amazing. Awesome. It works. Obviously, it's not the best thing in the world, but hey, it works. And we did it in less than 3.5 minutes. Now we can take this application, publish it, create a whole website around it if we want, or put it into our existing software via an API. Again, publishing it, monitoring it, giving it all of its architecture. Very easy for us to do because it's done in Diffy. Okay? Now, let's make this a bit more complex or a bit more sophisticated. All right? And talk about some of the other features that are available to us within a text generator app. Okay? The first, you can edit your model by just clicking this button here. Now, we have a whole section on models when we get into components, but just so you know, this is where you would modify the model that is used as the underlying LLM for this task. You can choose between GPT-3.5 to GPT-4o, and you can also go ahead and provide other models as well from Anthropic and Bedrock and Azure AI Studio. But again, we have a whole nother section on that we'll talk about later. But this is how you change your models up. You can also here edit your parameters for your model, your temperature, your top P, max tokens, and so on and so forth. This course is not about going into these parameters. I have another course for that. But just to let you know, the most often used parameter is called temperature, and it basically controls the randomness of the response. So you want a high temperature if you're looking for more creative type tasks, and you want a low temperature when you want more factual based deterministic type tasks. Okay. But in our case, we're not going to kind of change this up. This looks good to us. Okay. So that's number one. You can easily change the field. Number two, this is not a great prompt. We haven't defined a few things. We haven't defined the number of slogans that we want, for example, if we want multiple or not. We haven't defined any conditions, any roles. Do we want our slogans to always be of a happy nature or an excited nature, or do we want instead to have a more serious nature? So it's not the best prompt. And we could go on an exercise to maybe create a better prompt, like something like you are an AI system that does X, Y, and Z. But in our case, and when Diffie's case, what's nice is you can actually generate a prompt, which sounds a bit weird, but what you can do over here is you can go over here and then type in your instructions. Okay, so I want to say generate one slogan based on the company description. Slogan should be enthusiastic. Slogan should not contain any punctuations. I'll say something like slogan should be something that resonates with the audience's feelings and emotions. Okay? And all you do is you click generate. That's it. You just describe your use case, what you're trying to do, and there we go. So we have a really good prompt here. Generate one slogan based on the company description, blah, 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 blah. And then it even gives us example. Company description, blah, 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 blah. And the great thing about this is if we click apply here, now we can go in here and, we can basically think about here, maybe giving examples here. So we have a good instruction. Generate one slogan based on the description. Slogan should be enthusiastic. It's kind of copied the same thing that we did. Ensure the output does not contain any XML tag. That's very good because sometimes outputs do contain XML tags. And then it gives us examples. So it structures the prompt for us. Example, company description. We are a leading tech company revolutionizing the future. What do we want our desired slogan for that to be? Maybe something like start your future. Okay. Empower, company description here, empowering individuals to reach their full potential. We'll say something like boost your productivity. Okay, perfect. Now, the last thing we need to do is we obviously need to define a particular slogan, right? So we want to say here, let me just see over here. Company description. We'll do the same thing we did before. Company description, and then we'll put in the two braces and say new variable, and we'll say company description. We'll get rid of these two because we don't need them. Sometimes it just adds them randomly. So let me just delete them. And I'll just add a short text. Company description. Okay, perfect. And now, now that we've made this change, we can click run. Delight in every scoop. Great. Right, so now this is a much better prompt than what we had before because we've given it examples and we've also given it very I would say very complete instructions. The only thing I would say here is something like you are an AI system that helps generate slogans. It's better to get the LLM into the role. But you know what? This is great. So that's another thing for you to have available to you. If you have trouble generating a prompt, just click generate and then describe the use case. And then it will help you kind of determine, okay, you need to have examples, you need to do this, you need to do this. So you kind of get your mind going a little bit. Okay. And there we go. That is basically how you create a very simple text generator application in Divi. I'm sorry, in DeFi, what we'll do later on though is we'll talk about again the different components. Like there's much more things to go into variables. There's a lot of things to go into models, for example. There's a whole thing about knowledge. If you want to include knowledge or memory in your applications, how you do that, that will be covered later on in this module. We just want to go through all the different types of apps just to make sure that you understand them and how they work and how they differ. And then we'll get into more the sophisticated components later on. All right. Awesome.